Why don't animals laugh? So, I didn't really look this up because I have my own ideas as to why. I don't know what scientific consensus says about this subject, but I just feel like my own theory is good enough. So basically, we have, this is the human brain, and so what I'm calling visceral reality is ever-present, always hitting the senses. It's always present in an animal way. This is what animals have. But humans also have symbols and language, which means they perceive their reality according to symbols and language. So it's sort of like they stop perceiving it according to the pure sense data and start perceiving it according to the language that they speak in their head and the symbols that they associate with the sense data. Because of symbols and language, human beings are very internal in the way that they interact with the world, more so than animals, which are much more external. Then over here you have metasymbols, which is sort of like when language starts thinking about itself. And then it can keep thinking about, the language can think about itself. So you can have infinite levels of language thinking about itself. What you get as a result of all these different modes of thinking is what I'm calling the symbolic tension. Because the visceral reality never actually goes away. The senses are still there. It's just that the human being starts thinking in symbols and language and sort of suppresses the visceral reality. And that's what creates this tension. Basically, here's another drawing of essentially the same ideas. You can have more than one symbolic interpretation of the same visceral reality, which can result in like all sorts of metasymbols and symbols derived from the same visceral reality, depending on what aspect of it you're looking at or what your particular mind raises to consciousness. Over here you have just the way it layers itself up into infinity. So you started with the visceral level, which is always there, but all these symbolic layers just kind of pile up on each other and go into infinity. And the human mind is like split between the visceral reality and the infinite level of the symbols referring to each other. That's how we exist. Now, jokes and humor are basically like quick rearrangements of the symbolic levels, which then refer to other possible ways of interpreting the visceral reality. And jokes basically relieve the symbolic tension that's built up from having so many different ways of perceiving reality. So, why don't animals laugh? I think it's because they don't actually build up the tension that accompanies language and symbolic thought. Like, they don't actually have the tension to relieve. Because they don't have the tension that builds up when you have a mind that can perceive the same thing in so many different ways. And people build up tension because we don't always know whether our symbolic interpretation is an accurate representation of reality. So humor gives us another symbolic way of interpreting reality. It's actually showing us how we are interpreting. It's revealing our symbolic reality to us. And that to me is how it relieves the tension. And why animals don't laugh, because they don't have a symbolic reality to relieve the tension of. Thanks for watching. You can like and subscribe, or Alright.